How could you do something like that when I'm in serious trouble? I'm not even married yet. You're the worst. Pervert. Groper. The woman who came as a customer to the restaurant Iran glared at me with a look of disgust. I was puzzled as to why she had such a misunderstanding. Just then, her fiancé came rushing into the restaurant. That man is a groper. He hugged me. The woman clung to her fiancé and started crying. I tried to say it was a misunderstanding, but I faltered at the fiancé's piercing gaze. Come to think of it, I saw you touching her chest earlier. No way. I can't believe it. At the fiancé's words, the woman put on a tragic face. Was he talking about the chest compressions? In that situation, it should have been obvious that I was trying to save her without any ulterior motives, so why would he say that? However, she would later come to deeply regret these words and actions. When she came to apologize to me, she said, I want to, do it with you. Please. The blushing woman approached me saying that Misagiya Japanese restaurant, established in the 1980s, is a long-standing establishment. My parents were the restaurant owner and they took pride in their commitment to serving delicious food and providing excellent service. My parents and the restaurant had been my pride since I was a child. So, of course, my dream for the future was to take over the restaurant. I decided to attend a culinary school to improve my knife skills and learn about food entrepreneurship. Even though I had to leave my hometown to pursue my studies, my parents encouraged me to pursue my career plan of becoming a Japanese chef. However, while I was still studying at the culinary school, my father passed away. I wanted to stop studying and take over the restaurant immediately after my father's passing, but my mother wouldn't allow it. Michael, focus on your studies. Leave Misagiya to me. I gave in to my mother's words and devoted myself to my studies at the culinary school. After successfully obtaining a degree in hospitality management, I started working at Misagiya, where my mother led the kitchen as the executive chef. However, my mother, who had been running Misagiya alone for a while after my father passed away, seemed to have overworked herself. She developed a heart condition, and 2 years after I returned to Misagiya, she passed away. I was all alone, but even alone, I braced myself to keep the business going. I was of course careful about the taste of the food, but I also taught myself how to treat customers. I incorporated dishes that were trending recently, which I found on social media, thinking it would increase the number of customers. But reality wasn't so sweet. The regular customers, who had been close to us for a long time, frowned at the new dishes I introduced. Even though I continued to offer new menu items while pretending not to see such reactions, the online reviews were not great. Hey Michael, did you see Yelp? Misagiya's rating dropped to 2 stars. My childhood friend Kevin, who worried about the restaurant and me and visited from time to time, showed me his phone while saying that Yelp is a website where anyone can freely rate restaurants. Of course, the restaurant's permission is required to be listed, but it's also possible for the restaurant to register as a member and post information about the restaurant. Since it has a large number of users, I thought it would be good advertising for the restaurant, so I registered. But it seems that has backfired. The staff's attitude of resting on the laurels of being a long-established restaurant is appalling. Disapproved. They used to serve good food, but now, not really good because the owner's chef was changed to a young person. Not worth going. Geez, they're saying whatever they want. Please stop. When I let out a voice close to a scream, Kevin apologetically put his phone on the table. But it's really bad. We need to think of some solution. He says that, but neither Kevin nor I can think of a good idea. I'll let you know if I think of anything, Kevin said as he paid the bill and left. He was the only customer today. In the restaurant with no customers, I sighed as I looked at the ingredients that had gone to waste. Then one day, 2 hours had passed since opening that day, and still no one had come. Kevin, who works as a security guard at a nearby girls' school, also complained, I'm experiencing an increase in graveyard shifts due to the recent quitting of a newly hired colleague. So he seems busy and hasn't come by recently. Looks like the ingredients will go to waste again. As I was absent-mindedly thinking about that, the sound of the entrance door opening echoed. Welcome. My voice unintentionally cracked. Seeing the 2 people who entered, I involuntarily held my breath. They were the very definition of a beautiful couple. The woman, elegantly wearing a white suit, had her well-groomed long, glossy hair in an updo and was surveying the restaurant with her almond-shaped eyes. The man gazing at her from slightly behind with eyes full of affection had the face and demeanor of a noble prince, wearing a black long coat that seemed to have been tailored to make her stand out. "Excuse me, may we order?" Lost in a daze staring at the two, I hurriedly came back to my senses at the man's voice. Before I knew it, the two had taken a seat and opened the menu. "I'm sorry, please go ahead. I'll have this limited-time violet set meal. What about you, Chloe?" "Oh, wait a second. I was going to order the violet set meal. Change yours to something else." "All right. Then the violet set meal for her, and the pine set meal for me." "Understood. Please wait a moment." With my first new customers in a while, I eagerly started cooking. First, I served pickled turnips in sweet vinegar as an appetizer. Then the woman called out to me, "Excuse me, may I ask you something? May I take photos of the restaurant, the food, and you making the food? I also have a few questions I want to ask you." I was completely taken aback by her request. I hadn't anticipated someone would make such a request. "Chloe, you should introduce yourself first." The man, who had a refreshing smile, held out his business card. The woman, who was called Chloe, hurriedly took out that of hers. The business cards had Mitt Miller Publishing House, Editorial Department Manager, Jack and Mitt Miller Publishing House, Cuisine des Pros Magazine Editor-in-Chief, Chloe written on them respectively. I could only give a vague response of "Oh, Mitt Miller Publishing House is one of the top 3 in the industry. I write articles about restaurants with low ratings on Yelp, checking if those ratings are actually accurate. And this time, the restaurant that was chosen is yours. Not bad, right? Seems like you have plenty of free time." Miss Chloe proudly puffed out her chest. Her condescending attitude was irritating. "I'm sorry, I decline." When I said that, Miss Chloe blinked. "Why? If we give a proper evaluation and write that your restaurant is delicious, you'll get lots of customers, you know. Isn't it common sense to make an appointment before coming for something like this? What's the big deal? It's not like you have any other customers anyway. You weren't busy, right? Even though I'm kindly offering to feature you." She tilted her head, and I felt my anger rising. But I suppressed it by counting to 6 in my mind. My quick temper is one of my bad traits. Since I was young, I've always been quick to anger, especially with my childhood friend Kevin. Kevin used to cry easily when he was little. He would cry when a bug landed on him, cry when he fell, and cry when girls teased him about it. Every time Kevin cried, I would get angry and say, "You're a boy, so don't cry over things like that." One day, Kevin came to me crying, saying a boy in our class had mocked him. "You're super weak, aren't you?" He's right, you know. Aren't you embarrassed? I was irritated by Kevin, who cried at the drop of a hat, so I said something like that. Kevin looked shocked and slowly backed away, trembling his lips, then ran away home as if escaping. That night, Kevin's parents came to Mississauga in a panic, saying Kevin had run away from home. Apparently, he had left a note in his room saying, "I'm going to become strong and come back." Hearing that, I felt the blood drain from my body. It was because I had said those things, letting my irritation get the better of me. It seems Kevin had gone to the next town over. My father found him and safely brought him back to his parents. "I'm sorry, Kevin. It's my fault for saying things like that. You don't have to become strong or anything." When I apologized to Kevin after he returned, he shook his head. "It's true that I'm weak. Next time, I'll find a way to become strong without making everyone worry." As we made up, my father, who had been watching us with his arms crossed, said as if to impress upon me, "Michael, you have a bad habit of getting irritated easily, so be careful. There's a saying, life and death are in the power of the tongue. It means the tongue can be used as a weapon to harm and destroy or as a tool to build and heal. What kind of impact do your words have? Handle the words that come out of your mouth with the same care as handling a kitchen knife." Those words from my father weighed heavily on my chest. Since then, I've tried not to forget the saying life and death are in the power of the tongue. I exhaled, trying to hold back my anger, and Mr. Jack apologetically put his hands together in front of me. "Please, We won't write anything bad about this restaurant. Honestly, I didn't want to, but if I endured here, it might help restore the restaurant's reputation. Thinking that, I decided to swallow my anger. Feel free to take photos. As for interviewing me, is it alright to do that after I've served all the dishes? That's fine. I'm counting on you. Perhaps because she got permission, Miss Chloe immediately took out a camera and started taking pictures all over. She even barged into the kitchen without hesitation and snapped away. Hey, is it true this place has been around since 1980s? Why did you decide to become a chef here? Wait, we agreed the questions would be later, didn't we? And please don't enter the kitchen without permission. Miss Chloe, who had placed a white pen on a nearby shelf, pursed her lips as if displeased by my response. What's the big deal? There's no one else here anyway. That's not the issue. I ended up raising my voice. Miss Chloe made a face like a pigeon that had been shot with a pop gun. Chloe, you're being a nuisance. Come back here. At Mr. Jack's call, Miss Chloe reluctantly returned to her seat. I was honestly relieved, so a sigh of relief escaped me. She's one thing, but Mr. Jack seems like a sensible, good person. I took a deep breath to regain my composure and decided to focus on cooking. I served rice, miso soup with clams, and for the main dishes, grilled Spanish mackerel with garlic and oyster ponzu sauce for Miss Chloe, and bluefin tuna sashimi for Mr. Jack. Then Miss Chloe made a face. What's this? Doesn't it clash with the restaurant's atmosphere? Plus, garlic makes your mouth stink. Now. Then let's trade my sashimi with yours. Oh, thank you, Jack. Irritated by their exchange, especially Miss Chloe's comments, I was preparing dessert when I heard Mr. Jack's panicked voice. Chloe. I rushed out of the kitchen to find Miss Chloe collapsed on the floor. What happened? I don't know. She was eating the sashimi when she suddenly looked like she was in pain. Looking closely, Miss Chloe was making a gesture as if choking herself. This is the choking sign. Many people make this sign when they are in a state of suffocation, which means Miss Chloe had likely choked on the sashimi. I had learned how to handle choking on food in culinary school. Miss Chloe, can you hear me? I called out to her while patting her shoulder, but there was no response. She wasn't coughing and was limp. This is bad, she's unconscious. Mr. Jack, please call an ambulance. And go get the AED from the high school right over there. Okay. At my instructions, Mr. Jack hurriedly took out his phone and started dialing 911. In the meantime, I decided to administer first aid. I placed the heel of one hand on the center of her chest, right between the nipples. Though I could feel something soft against my hands, it wasn't the time to worry about that. Hey, what are you doing? Mr. Jack, who seemed to have finished the call, scolded me with a look of surprise. This is where my patience ran out. I told you to hurry and get the AED, didn't I? At this rate, it'll be too late for her. When I shouted angrily, Mr. Jack left the restaurant looking intimidated. After that, I desperately repeated back blows. Suddenly, Miss Chloe started coughing. Miss Chloe, stay with me. When I encouraged her and patted her shoulder, she responded this time. She was groaning. Ack. It seems she regained consciousness. I stopped the back blow and observed whether she was breathing. I checked her mouth occasionally, but the obstruction didn't seem to have come out yet, and Miss Chloe was struggling. I decided to perform the Heimlich maneuver. I stood behind Miss Chloe, wrapped my arms around her waist as if embracing her, and bent her body forward. I placed my fist below her sternum and put my other hand on top of it. Then I strongly thrust upward into her abdomen. After each thrust, I checked Miss Chloe's condition. After performing the maneuver 3 times, Miss Chloe retched and the piece of sashimi fell out of her mouth. Seeing Miss Chloe taking deep breaths, I felt drained. It seems her life was saved for now, so I felt relieved. But my relief was short-lived. Why are you hugging me? Miss Chloe screamed and elbowed me. It was a perfect hit to my solar plexus, making me groan and double over. How could you do something like that when I'm in serious trouble? I'm not even married yet. You're the worst. Pervert. Groper. Miss Chloe glared at me with a look of disgust. I was puzzled as to why she had such a misunderstanding. Just then, Mr. Jack and Kevin, carrying an AED, came rushing into the restaurant. Kevin was wearing his security guard uniform, so he was probably still in the middle of work. Jack, that man is a groper. He hugged me. Miss Chloe clung to Mr. Jack and started crying. I tried to say it was a misunderstanding, but I faltered at Mr. Jack's piercing gaze. Come to think of it, you were touching Chloe's chest earlier. No way. I can't believe it. At Mr. Jack's words, Miss Chloe put on a tragic face. Was he talking about the chest compressions? In that situation, it should have been obvious that I was trying to save her without any ulterior motives. So why would he say that? But Chloe, I'm glad you're okay. If something happened to you, I wouldn't be able to face your father. It was worth giving you first aid in desperation. So you're the one who saved me, Jack. Looking up at Mr. Jack with an adoring gaze, Miss Chloe blushed. That's completely wrong. I'm the one who saved her. Those words kept swirling around in my head, but I couldn't bring myself to say them out loud. The scene in front of me was so unbelievable that I forgot to even get angry and just stood there in a daze. Chloe, supported by Jack, glared at me with narrowed eyes. I'll press charges against you for sexual assault. I tried to approach her to explain myself, but Jack blocked me. You saw the company name on the business card I gave you earlier, right? She's the daughter of the CEO of Miller Publishing House. So, who do you think would win if this went to court? Jack smirked. Just then, an ambulance arrived and Chloe was taken to the hospital just in case. Jack went with her. Once the sound of the ambulance siren faded away, I collapsed on the spot. Kevin supported me. Hey, what happened? There's no way you'd grope someone. I only helped her. But why did it turn out like this? Like the night sky spreading above, everything was pitch black before my eyes now. Kevin patted my back as if to comfort me. If you really get sued and it goes to court, I'll be a witness for you. I let out a wry smile at him, trying to cheer me up. I appreciated Kevin's words, but honestly, I didn't feel like I could win against the daughter of a major publishing company's CEO. After thinking it over for a few days, I decided to close the restaurant at the end of next month. I hadn't heard from that Chloe person since then, but I didn't want it to seem like I was closing the restaurant because I got sued by her, so I made the decision quickly. I contacted the regular customers who had been coming for a long time. Everyone made a surprised sound over the phone and then said, "That's a shame." From the day I finished contacting everyone, the number of customers increased. The regulars made time to come, saying it was their last chance. For those regular customers, I took down the new menu items and decided to only offer the menu items that had been passed down for generations at Misugiya. Yes, this is the sharp, refreshing flavor that hits your tongue. This is Misugiya's taste. The regulars happily smacked their lips. Then they all looked apologetic, furrowing their brows. I'm sorry for distancing myself from this restaurant. No, I'm the one at fault. I was so fixated on bringing in new customers that I neglected all of you who have been coming here for years. Even though my father and mother cherished you all, it's understandable that you wanted to bring in new customers. Until you close, I'll come by whenever I can. I could barely express my gratitude to the regulars encouraging me like that while trying not to shed tears. I put even more effort into cooking, trying to at least treat them to delicious food. A few days after deciding to close, only the regulars came, but it was still plenty busy. Michael, want me to help with serving the dishes? Kevin poked his head into the kitchen. That would be a big help, but you've been coming a lot lately. Is work okay? Yeah, thanks to a newbie, my shifts went back to normal. I see, that's good. Then please take this to table 8. Yeah. Kevin, who was about to take the tray of food, suddenly looked at a nearby shelf. Michael, this isn't yours, right? What Kevin pointed at was a white pen. I unintentionally made a face. That's the CEO's daughter's. Oh, that. Want me to send it back for you? If I deliver it to Miller Publishing House, it should get back to her. That would be a big help. Honestly, just thinking about it makes my blood boil. Leave it to me. Kevin picked up the pen. Then he tilted his head and said, What is it? No, it's nothing. Kevin, who said something that caught my attention, put the pen in his pocket and went to deliver the food. It was the day marking 1 month until closing. That's when that whirlwind of a CEO's daughter showed up again. That day too, all the seats were filled with regulars. She widened her eyes at the sight. As she hesitated, not knowing where to sit, One of the regulars pointed to a table and said, "Miss, there's an open seat here." She nodded and sat down, glancing at me busily working in the kitchen. To be honest, I wanted her to leave. I don't know the purpose of her visit, but I'm so busy now that I don't have time to deal with her. And as I told Kevin, just thinking about her made me angry, so I didn't want to get involved with her again. But since she already sat down, it couldn't be helped. After serving dishes to the other customers, I went to take her order. Today she wasn't wearing a suit, but a cream-colored cardigan with small white flower embroidery and a fluffy white long skirt. I didn't come to eat today." "Then why did you come? If you have business other than dining, please make a proper appointment. You might have thought it would be fine because I was free like last time, but as you can see, I'm busy now. You're an editor-in-chief, right? If you're going to be in a position above others, please consider the other person and act accordingly. Being the CEO's daughter has nothing to do with it." When I said that, trying to stay calm, she let out a small "I'm sorry" and cast her eyes down. But she still didn't try to leave. I unintentionally let out a sigh. "If you absolutely must talk to me, please sit there and wait." Saying that, I quickly returned to the kitchen. Glancing at her, she seemed to be timidly looking around the restaurant while shrinking back. I was making food, delivering it to customers, seating new customers and taking their orders, and while I was busily doing all that, Chloe suddenly came into the kitchen. Rather than getting angry, I was exasperated that she barged in again, and I lifted my head. She seemed tense, her body stiff as a board. Is there anything I can help with?" For a moment, I was taken aback by what she said. Then, take that dish over there to table 1. The table numbers are posted next to the tables." "Yes. Table 1, got it." She energetically took the tray of food and went to deliver it. I watched her back, worried, but I was surprised that she seemed like a completely different person from the other day when she softly smiled at the customers and said, "Sorry to keep you waiting." She also greeted the customers who came immediately after, saying welcome, and showed them to the table she had been sitting at. After that too, she worked briskly, noticing customers getting up to leave and telling me, "Michael, they need the check," clearing away empty dishes and taking orders. Thanks to her, I was able to focus on cooking more than usual. The regulars even complimented me, saying it was especially delicious today. After all the customers had left, I placed the "Sorry, we're closed" sign on the door. I sit down in front of Chloe, who was waiting for me. Then, unexpectedly, she began apologizing to me and expressed her deep remorse, saying, "I'm so sorry. Even though you helped me, I made a fuss calling you a pervert and a groper." In front of me with my eyes wide open, Chloe took out a white pen. It's the one Kevin said he would send back. This is actually a voice recorder. At that time, I turned it on because I wanted to record what you were saying. The childhood friend who delivered it to you, Kevin, gave me a letter along with a pen saying listen closely to what's recorded here, and that's how I found out that you were trying to save me. Chloe looked up at me with a serious expression. Of course, I withdrew the lawsuit. And in Kevin's letter, it also said you were going to close this restaurant. That's why I came here today. I also apologize for barging in suddenly. After saying that, she bowed her head again and then looked around the restaurant. The customers who came today were all regulars of this restaurant, right? They were eating your food with such gusto. Just watching them made me feel full. This restaurant is really loved, isn't it? Yeah. It's all thanks to them. When I replied, she took on a solemn expression. If I'm the reason for the closure, it's not a problem anymore. I won't do anything to tarnish your restaurant's reputation from now on. So, it's fine. Even without that incident, I was planning to close this restaurant anyway. When I interrupted her, she knitted her brows sadly. What you saw when you first came to Misagia was my current situation. Everyone is just cherishing it now because it's the end. That's not true at all. Chloe leaned forward, bringing her face close to mine. Was she wearing perfume? The scent of violets gently wafted over, and I unintentionally felt a sweet ache in my chest. It's such a waste. When it's this loved. Please, let me properly interview you. I'll make sure to convey this restaurant's good points to everyone. Looking at me, stunned, she blushed and pulled back. Oh, I'll make a proper appointment, she added weakly, and I couldn't help but laugh. Perhaps out of embarrassment, Her face turned even redder. And I want you to let me help out at the restaurant too. I want to work here and really understand Miss Sugiya's good points. I think I could write a great article then. Oh, I couldn't possibly ask that of you. No, please let me do at least this much. Her words were filled with determination. I let out a small sigh and faced her. It would actually be a huge help for us. To be honest, we're so busy that we could use all the help we can get. And your work today was really good. I'd be happy to have your help. Yes, I'm looking forward to working with you. Seeing Chloe's eyes sparkling, I found her cute and my heart naturally started racing. Early the next morning, Chloe came to Miss Sugiya. Yesterday, when she asked about my schedule and I said I go shopping for ingredients in the morning, she requested, "Can I come along too? I don't intend to cause any trouble, but I'd like to take photos and record audio for the interview, if that's okay." Since she asked in advance, I gave her permission, and she let out a sigh of relief. Good morning. Even though it was only 7 a.m., Chloe had a dazzling smile that rivaled the morning sun. Today she's wearing the same white suit as when we first met. It must be her work attire. We immediately went to the market and looked around at the fish and vegetables. I purchased what I thought looked good, occasionally negotiating prices. Chloe handed her business card to everyone at the shops, introducing herself and asking for permission to take photos and record audio. If they refused, she immediately accepted it and quietly observed what I was doing. However, perhaps because Chloe is beautiful, most people, especially the men, gave her permission. Whether she was aware of it or not, when she got an okay, she would innocently smile and thank them. On the way back from shopping, Chloe asked me various questions. Do you have any particular preferences when selecting ingredients? I don't do anything special, but freshness is key. And I try to incorporate a lot of seasonal ingredients. They are delicious and nutritious. Speaking of seasonal, the main dish in the violet set meal changed, right? It became grilled Spanish mackerel with seikyo miso. You noticed. I was surprised and stopped in my tracks. But urged on by Chloe, I started walking again. The seasonal set meals themselves have been continued for generations, but I changed the main dish when I became the head chef. I researched dishes that young people might like to bring in new customers. Deciding to close it made me realize I had been neglecting the regular customers who have loved Miss Sugiya for a long time by doing things like that. So I went back to the previous menu. I see. Yeah, the card one is better. To be honest, when I heard it was a long-established restaurant that's been around since the 1980s, I was taken aback when something that didn't match that image at all came out. I felt a little miffed at those words, but Chloe looked nonchalant about it. Hey, did you just say that without any ill intent? Then Chloe looked at me blankly, and then her face quickly paled. Oh, did I upset you? I'm sorry. I had a vague feeling about it since we met, but it seems none of her words or actions are said with ill intent. My dad has always scolded me, saying I unintentionally hurt people's feelings, so I need to consider the other person's perspective. I guess I haven't been listening to my dad at all. I'm reflecting on that. Seeing Chloe drop her shoulders dejectedly, I felt sympathetic. My dad used to tell me to be careful too, since I get irritated easily. Getting huffy at your words just now was, well, about 1/4 because of my bad personality. Only 1/4. I properly listened to my dad and only got huffy. I didn't blow up. At my joke, Chloe seemed to regain her energy and laughed merrily. Michael, you're amazing. Not only are you single-handedly running such a wonderful restaurant, but you're also so dedicated and serious about cooking. You're just as wonderful as the restaurant. Her eyes sparkled as she looked up at me. Being gazed at by such beautiful eyes made my heart pound. It really would be a waste for a restaurant like that to close down. We need to spread the word more about how great you and Miss Sugiya are. Saying that, she bent her elbows and made fists in a pose as if to say she was fired up. After shopping, Chloe took photos and occasionally asked me questions as I prepared the ingredients. When it was time to open for lunch, Chloe took off her suit jacket, put on the apron I provided, and enthusiastically started serving customers. Seeing her working diligently like a lovely white violet, the customers all had gentle expressions. Michael, when did you get such a nice girlfriend? I ended up handling the checks, as Chloe said money is involved, and I think everyone wants to talk to you, Michael. At that time, some of the regulars would make jokes like that. I turned beet red and denied it, but they wouldn't listen, saying now, no need to be shy. The dinner hours passed in a similar way, and it was time to put away the Norrin curtain. In the restaurant now empty of customers, Chloe sat down in a chair and let out a big sigh. Good work today. I handed Chloe, looking exhausted, a warm green tea and a sweet rice cake shaped like a dandelion. Chloe gave me a big smile and said thank you. I felt my exhaustion from the day gently melting away thanks to her. Come to think of it, Jack, who came with you last time, didn't come today. It didn't seem like you were just co-workers. Is he your boyfriend or something? Remembering his sweet gaze at Chloe made my chest sting, but I was curious, so I asked. She slowly chewed the sweet rice cake and swallowed it properly. She took a sip of green tea and exhaled, then gave a small, somehow lonely smile. Jack is my fiancé, but the one he really loves is my father. He wants to become my father's right-hand man, so he got engaged to me at my father's recommendation. To summarize what Chloe told me, Jack grew up in a foster care facility due to family circumstances. Chloe's father made large donations to that facility and visited once a week to dote on the children as much as possible. Jack, who had been starved for affection, not receiving love from his real parents, came to admire Chloe's father. Wanting to work under Chloe's father and become his right-hand man, he studied hard, got into a good university, and joined Mitt Miller Publishing House. CEO's daughter, the kind who'd do whatever I say if I told them to face right. The truth is, I want to marry someone I genuinely fall in love with too. Someone who sees me as just Chloe, not as the CEO's daughter. But I'd never met someone like that before, so I thought even if Jack's feelings weren't genuine, he was still better than the others. Chloe rested her chin in her hand and stared off into the distance. As for work, my dream was to become a writer, so I got into Mitt Miller Publishing House through my dad's connections. I was gung-ho about it at first, but everyone treated me differently because I'm the CEO's daughter, and even when I became editor-in-chief, my coworkers made snide remarks like must be nice being the CEO's daughter and getting a cushy position through connections. So I started thinking, who cares about work or love? And I've been slacking off a bit lately. Even if I didn't make appointments, once people found out I'm the CEO's daughter at Mitt Miller Publishing House, no one said anything, and I was resting on my laurels about that. Still resting her chin in her hand, Chloe stared intently at me. My heart raced and I couldn't look away from her. It had been a long time since I got scolded. It was really embarrassing, but it made me happy that you saw me as an individual, not as the CEO's daughter. So I decided not to give up and to do my best, both in work and in love. Chloe kept gazing at me and softly smiled. That smile felt like it brought the spring breeze to me. Perhaps thanks to Chloe's in-depth coverage, not only regulars but also new customers started visiting Misagia. We got even busier as a result. Due to strong requests from the customers who visited, we decided to cancel the closure. Even now, remembering the delight of the regulars when I told them we weren't closing and how Chloe proudly said it's thanks to my article, makes me happy and brings tears to my eyes. I narrowed my eyes at Kevin, who was watching me hurrying about from a customer seat. Kevin, help me out, will ya? You helped last time. I'm a customer, you know, and if you need help, look. When Kevin glanced towards the entrance, the door slid open and Chloe appeared. Good evening. Sorry I'm late. I'll help out now. As she grinned, showing her white teeth, someone shouted, all right, we've been waiting for you, Chloe. From somewhere. Chloe casually responded yes, just a moment, and came into the kitchen, washed her hands, and put on an apron. What should I start with? Then take the cherry blossom set meal to table 5. Okay. Chloe, who had picked up the tray with the braised sea brim with scattered cherry blossom petals, turned back to me and said that's right. I broke off my engagement with Jack. Wait, what? Caught off guard, I nearly dropped my knife. Hey, don't suddenly say stuff like that. Knives need to be handled with care. Sorry. She stuck her tongue out a little. That kind of gesture would have just pissed me off before, but now that I know her well, I find it cute. Jack lied to me, didn't he? That he was the one who saved me. I told my dad about that. I felt a little bad for him though. Apparently, even when he was in the foster care facility, he often lied to make himself look good to people he wanted to be liked by. Well, my dad only dissolved the engagement. It's not like he cut ties with Jack or anything, so don't worry. I'm not worried. It's none of my business who you get engaged to or break it off with. Chloe looked hurt, so I thought, crap. But just then, a customer's voice echoed through the restaurant. Hey, is the food coming or what? Right away, Chloe responded in a bright voice and quickly went to deliver the cherry blossom set meal. I was biting my lip, thinking I'd apologize when she got back, but Chloe returned right away. Chloe, about earlier. As I faltered, not knowing how to apologize, Chloe inched closer to me. Could you put down the knife for just a sec? Since she asked, and I felt a bit guilty about earlier, I did as she said. Fortunately, no orders have come in right now, so there's no urgent cooking to do. I want to work here. Would that be okay? I could make a proper appointment and do an interview. Want me to bring my resume too? Work here? What about being a writer? Wasn't that your dream? I'm thinking of becoming a freelance writer. Then I can do that while being here. I see. No need for an interview or resume. I already know what kind of person you are, Chloe, and I'd be happy to have you. Really? You'd really be happy to have me? For some reason, she pressed closer to me with flushed cheeks, and I felt pressured as I nodded yeah. Then she put on a knowing look. Then starting today, I'll work as your wife. Please take good care of me, Michael. What? Wife? No take-backs at this point. I have proof, after all. Saying that, Chloe took the white pen out of her pants pocket and lightly waved it in front of me. Miss Agia has been thriving ever since I welcomed Chloe as my wife. Michael, did you see Yelp? Miss Agia's rating went up to 5 stars. Kevin happily showed his smartphone to me and Chloe. When I heard long-established restaurant, I thought it would be stuffy, but it was totally different. The staff and regulars are super friendly and kind, even to new customers. Also, the waitress is a total babe. I recommend the seasonal limited time menu. I want to come back every time it changes. Glad I went. Man, the ratings are the complete opposite of before Chloe came. So it's thanks to me. As Kevin spoke wistfully, Chloe puffed out her chest with a triumphant look. Don't get carried away. I lightly admonished her, and she looked bashful. With a single remark from Chloe, we were nearly driven to closure for a time, but thanks to her reflecting on my words, we were able to turn the restaurant around into one that customers choose to visit. I'm also grateful for that situation because it reminded me to cherish the regular customers who have loved Miss Agia for a long time. From now on, I'll be mindful of the words I speak and continue to serve lots of delicious food for the important people close to me. I engraved those feelings anew in my heart.